Tonight you're joining us for what I believe is the fifth thus far this year, Madam Mayor. I believe this is the fifth Public Safety Forum we've hosted in the last couple of months. And I thank you for joining us. We thank you for your patience. We thank you for your time, and we will not take long before going straight into the Q&A portion of tonight. But first, it is my honor and privilege to present to you our mayor, Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake.
Thank you, Gus. Good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you. I promise you I will be brief. I want to thank you for coming out this evening. As Gus stated, and as I'm sure you know, we've done a series of public safety forums throughout my administration to stay in communication with the people that we serve. I think it's important that we always ask the question, how can we work together better? How can we ensure that we are meeting the needs of the residents of Baltimore? And this is a way to do that. I don't think that if you're going to have a relationship and it's going to be healthy, you have to stay in communication. And the Public Safety Forum is just one of the ways that we've worked to ensure that we build relationships of trust, and we continue to, that we don't rest, but that we continue to stay in conversation. So I want to thank all of you for being here. I particularly want to thank our community leaders who are here, association presidents. I want to thank Ms. Inez Robb, the CRC president from this community. Thank you so much for all of your partnership, all of your hard work and your dedication to the communities that you serve as CRC president. I also want to thank one of the council members from the Western District, Councilman Nick Mosby. Thank you for being here as well. I'm very eager to get into the questions so we can have this dialogue, so I'm not going to be long. I don't know if I will turn it over to the commissioner to make brief remarks, and then Gus will give us the guidelines for how we're going to do the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome as well. And I want to thank our CRC president, Ms. Inez Robb, and Councilmember Nick Mosby for his presence here tonight. TJ Smith is the director of our media relations, and he's in the back walking away as soon as he heard me mention his name. He told me to, quote unquote, streamline my comments. And I looked at it, I said, what does that mean? He said, keep it short. So this will be a brief introduction because I too want to get to the comments. We're in a better place now than we were on April 27th in Baltimore City. We're not in a perfect place, but we're in a better place. The last 3 months of violence have been heading in the right direction, not fast enough, and that's a source of frustration for us all. While we saw 45 murders in the month of July, we saw 34 in August, and we saw 27 in September. So progress, not rapid enough, but it's something that we're continually looking to improve upon, and we know we have an equal amount of work to do with our relationships with the community. And we'll talk maybe later on about what we're going to do with a real curriculum regarding community policing in the form of community foot patrol, and a real curriculum about what we're going to do regarding cultural sensitivity in the form of the history of Baltimore. So some things that police officers here will be introduced to in the very near future. So I too look forward to your questions with the mayor. Thank you.
And Gus, before I turn it back over to you, I forgot to thank our fire chief, Chief Niles Ford, who is in the back, and I want to thank his team. Chief Ford has made a commitment to ensure that we are hiring more Baltimore City residents in the fire department, and he has taken it to the streets. I know that as you walked in, you probably saw those signs that say "Not now hiring." He means it. So please help us distribute that information and make sure that our residents understand the opportunities that are available to develop a career at the fire department. Thanks again. And as he walks in, I'll thank Councilman Pete Welch for being here as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner Davis. There are two things, Madam Mayor and neighbors, there are 2 points that I would like to make before we get started. Two critiques that we've heard since facilitating the public safety forums. One is individuals who live in a district. By the time we've ended, there are a lot of folks who live in the district who feel they didn't have an opportunity to give a question or make a comment. In many instances, there are people who are from other districts who come out, and which is okay, but we certainly want to prioritize those of you who actually live in the Western District. So by a show of hands, I'm just curious how many of you actually live in the Western District. Just that is a majority of you. That is good, it's particularly the center, so that's good. The second thing is those who did not have the opportunity to ask a question or give a comment. I'm going to remind you that you should have received a survey when you came in. This is a great tool that we use to, one, build a database to respond to concerns and questions that have been raised and to follow up with you. But it's also an opportunity for you to give us your opinion and give us some suggestions or notes. And I'm just going to remind you again that we have these surveys. If you need one, just let one of the staff members know. Staff members, just raise your hand. Mayor's office staff, raise your hands all around the room. And so tonight, there's one stationary microphone. Generally, we have two cordless that move around, but there's one. Charm TV is taping tonight, and because of the columns that are here and the lighting, they've decided that that spot to my right, your left, is the best spot for the microphone. So I'm going to ask that those of you who would like to ask a question, and we're going to try to keep it fair and balanced, focusing on the Western District, to raise your hand. We will ask you to step, yes, sir, the white T-shirt. Raise your hand, yes, sir, Doc Cheatham. Yes, ma'am, in the gray, yes, in the back. There's a burgundy, someone wearing it's the new color for the fall. I can't see you because of the column. You have, yes, ma'am, with the purple hat. All we're asking is that you give us your name, your neighborhood or community or organization, and then your question. Thank you so much.
My name is Gary Nelson. I live in 1600 block of Gwynns Falls Parkway. I went to this school as a 3-year-old in 1956 in the preschool program. I think this school was brand new then. My question is personal. It's directed to Acting Commissioner Kevin Davis. I read an article about some incidents that you seem to have been involved with, Mr. Davis. It involves a then 19-year-old Brian Ramju, 16 years ago, when you were Prince George's County, I believe, sergeant. This young man was taken to a remote location with other officers to terrorize him in an attempt to get info regarding his then girlfriend and niece of a high-ranking PG police commander. Ramju was awarded $90,000. According to this article, you and others violated his civil rights with excessive force. The incident began on September 4 of 1999. I repeat, you were a sergeant then. This was a federal civil rights trial in 2002. You were out of your jurisdiction when this young man essentially was kidnapped, according to this article. The ordeal lasted 5 hours, according to this article. You were accused of slamming his head against the window 3 to 5 times inside of a vehicle. And then on top of that, in 1993, you were accused of throwing a young man to the ground and handcuffing him without explanation. That young man was awarded $12,500 in a court of law. In 2013, you became the chief of the Anne Arundel County Police Department, and then you joined this department in January of this year. And as a lifetime resident of this city, I'd like you to explain yourself pertaining to these charges that were adjudicated quite a long time ago.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. And before I do respond to your question, I want to recognize the director of our public safety, Stephanie Robinson, is here with us tonight. I apologize for looking past you. And probably the two most important people in the room, the Western District Commander, Major Cherie Briscoe. Major Briscoe is here. And her captain, Captain Rob Jackson, two newly promoted commanders. And I'll say this, Mr. Nelson, I didn't see where you went. Oh, there you are, sir. Every commander you see in this room wearing a white shirt has been a police officer for a long, long time, to include myself. And the successes that I've enjoyed throughout my career are in large part thanks to some failures that I've experienced along the way. So I look at an occasional failure over the course of a quarter century as part of making me a thoughtful, inclusive leader that I find myself at now 46 years of age. So I've also, this is my third confirmation process. I was the assistant chief in Prince George's County. I was the chief of police in Anne Arundel County, and now you're interim chief in Baltimore City. And I don't run from anything at all that has happened in my past. They aren't always accurately depicted. I'll say that with a bit of frustration. But I've learned a lot about leadership throughout my career. I've learned a lot about the positions that leaders can intentionally and unintentionally place their subordinates in by not engaging in that thoughtful leadership. So I arrive here at this point in my professional life and in my personal life as well, because I find it hard to separate my professional life from my personal life. Positioned to lead a very diverse organization with a lot of challenges. And as I draw on the decisions that I make on a daily basis here in Baltimore, now and in the future, I look back at my experiences. And not every experience has been a perfect experience, but it's been an experience nonetheless. And I consider myself postured to lead this police department. And if I didn't think I was capable, or if I didn't think I had the experiences necessary to do it, I wouldn't accept the opportunity that the mayor has afforded me. So I do appreciate your question. Those incidents have been reported on in the past, to include recently in the Sun and in the Post in Prince George's. But I'd be more than happy, sir, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, to meet with you afterwards or at another time, so we don't take up too much time tonight, to offer an additional explanation, and I really do mean that. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Yes,
Good
ma'am.
evening.
And I'm sorry, before you speak, by the way, those of you who are standing, if there's a chair, please, you don't have to stand the whole time. We know the order in which you were called, so just wanted, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor Blake and Commissioner Davis. My name is Judy Thomas, and I'm a resident of Matthew A. Henson community. My concern is the park, which is known as Senator Bailey's Park, and the rampant drug activity that is constantly going on in that park, from Moreland Avenue, and they enter from Baker Street, they enter from Pressman Street, they go over on that basketball court. Their clients, the people who are dealing these drugs have backpacks. You think they're students, but they're not, and they're going over there, and they go over by the railroad tracks and pull out their stash. It is outrageous, and I have been calling and calling about that park for years. You have young people over there. They're after the curfew is 8 p.m. They're there 12 o'clock, midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., screaming, doing whatever they're doing over there. And then further down, as we go toward Emerson Avenue at Bentlow and Harlem Avenue, across directly from the St. Mark's Church, they've set up shop there, right there at Bentlow and Harlem Avenue in broad daylight. I go to the market, go to West Side, go to the market sometimes, or I use that route to go up to Giants. And I see them just standing, 2 on this corner, 2 on that corner, whatever. And I'm like, if your officers do not see this, I don't understand what's going on. And this has been going on for years, especially this park. It is outrageous over there.
Ms. Thomas, thank you.
You can see them lined up. Like, I thought somebody was giving out dinners one day. I said, what's going on? No, that's what they're doing.
I hear you. I would, Ms. Thomas, first, thank you for being here this evening, and thank you for the question. I would like your major to address that, and then the commissioner will chime in.
Okay.
Talked about the Troy Braley Park and drug dealing.
Yes?
That mic will work.
Oh, that might open up.
If you, because you'll be on camera.
Good evening, everyone. This has been we originally came in May of this year, and we were doing with our rank in August of this year. This has been a question when I attended a community meeting with Doc Cheatham about the park. We have done some work in the park. We are not completed work in the park. We've made arrests in that area. So much so at different times of the night, a few weeks back, one of our patrol cars was bricked as we try to engage, because part of the problem that we face, the challenge, should I say, that we face when we're trying to go up on that park is that they'll immediately scatter. Because as you know, you have to kind of walk into it because of the way that it is laid, the Easterwood Park. So that is also, in the area at Harlem and Bentlow, that's an active, I can't speak to it, so we're actively working on that. I can tell you that I'm certain that the results are not fast enough, but we are there and we are present. So it's important that you continue to call. As residents and neighbors, it's important that you continue to call. And if you are concerned about calling us directly, because that has been some of the communication that I've received, we do have the Block Watch application available that is now online, but because some of our residents do not have online functionality, we'll have that in a paper form and take it and enter it on your behalf and have the number mailed out to you. So I know that, and I feel your sense of frustration because yours is ours. We are not blind to it, but I can tell you in coming, we've had to do some level of prioritization because we have lost life in area of the districts, and that's been a primary initial focus for us in terms of addressing where we were having some historic violence that we've lost lives. So the drug activity brings that. We get that and we know that. So I'm not trying to diminish your concern. I'm simply saying that in terms of what we were faced with post the riot and how we had to prioritize that, we had to look at it in the sense of we have to address this drug trade and drug problem, but immediately so we had to go in and intentionally extract those that are creating the violence and taking lives on the streets. So please continue. I understand that you're frustrated, but do not give up on us because we want to be here and we want to be able to remedy.
Well, where? Because I see officers flying down and they're right over there.
But I don't
I
know.
don't know if you have surveillance over there, if it's legal to have an undercover officer over there. I'm quite sure you can pick a lot of them up, because if they don't know that you are an officer, they'll continue to do their business. If someone goes over there dressed like they just enjoying the park, smoking a cigarette, drinking out of a bottle, could be a paper bag, they will continue, and you'll be able to catch them.
Yes, ma'am. So with that, I'm sure we'll have some more of that type of dialogue tonight. If you just don't mind to step to the side so we can dialogue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. And I can say another thing about that activity. What we know about drug activity like that is it exists as long as it's not disrupted. And one way to disrupt it is through police activity. But part of the reason why the National Night Out was put into place was to disrupt, use the community as a disruptor for that type of activity. And I would like to be able to work with you and your association as well as with the CRC president to see if there are ways that we can do things like National Night Out, where the community comes together and says, no, this is our part, in a way that can disrupt that activity as well. Because it's one thing for the people who are out there to know that the police are looking at them. There's another for them to know that the eyes of the greater community are on them as well. So, Major, if we can think about that as you're talking about.
And actually, I'll add to that as a pickup note. We have done, one of the challenges that we brought out to the communities at large within the 2.8 square miles of the Western District were to do walks with us. Not walks for the sake of just walking through, because what we've done differently on our walks is brought out the extended arms of city government. And to that point, I've taken that challenge to every CRC. I've taken that challenge to the Core 25 that have attended our off-site sessions, where we've brought in some high-level mapping and discussed the prioritization of crime. As a matter of fact, from your community, Mr. Booker was present at that conversation, and we've challenged the communities to come out and walk with us. We're here 24/7, 365, so until you say no, we won't, but we will walk and take those corners and streets and walk through. We just did a walk in the Evergreen Protection Community Association and looked at the blight, the concerns, the issues, and taking those things back with the very many layers of city government. So that is still on the table for all of the communities within inside the 2.8 square miles. We've had 2 communities to, actually 3 to do that. 2 of them coupled together, and we walked the gridded space, and we did one on the lower end. So we did Fulton Heights, and we did the space right beside it, and we did on the lower end of Baltimore corridor and the Poe Homes. So again, we're still here, and we want to couple with communities to continue those walks to address those issues and bring them to light and develop a plan together, because that's the purpose of the Core 25 that we've established since we've arrived, and we've had meetings off-site, 2 of them thus far, at the Enoch Pratt Library right there on North Avenue to share a discussion. That's why I say we can talk on the side. Okay. There are a few things going that people may not be aware of, which is a communication gap. To echo it back up, but the purpose of the Core 25 was to bring different segments of the entire Western District, be it community representation, residents, business, faith-based, so we can just have a conversation. I can show you some high-level concerns, where we are, where we like to get to, and some vehicles by which we can do that. So we can have that discussion on the side.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Hayes, and I'm a resident of the 600 block of Cumberland Street, and we have a city playground across that is a drug haven, and our children can't go over on the playground. It's gunfire, crap games, and very dangerous. Also, we have daycare that has opened, and they are afraid for the children to come out on the playground for the heavy drug activity. So anything you could do to help us, we would appreciate it. It's bedtime for my 2, but I just thought I had to come to let you know that we need some help. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed your name.
I'm sorry.
I missed your name, I'm sorry.
Sharon Hayes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
And what community association?
Penn North.
And tell me the playground location.
It's just the city playground at Cumberland and Cary Streets.
Yeah, and so you know, that's one of the playgrounds that I've asked my team to focus on. With respect to the public safety concerns, again, I know that your major's there and her team that can talk about specific things that we can do and that they're working on in that area. But no, from a resource as far as upkeep, I've asked my team to take a particular look at the playgrounds, that playground and other ones in the area to see what we can do to improve the equipment that we have there and the maintenance as well.
Thank you. And my church is at North and Retreat in the 1600 block. They're afraid to get out their cars to come to church because the drug traffic is so heavy in that 1600 block of North Avenue. So whatever you could do to help us with that, we would appreciate also.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. And the mayor and I, Ms. Hayes, were asked out before we came in about a lot of the issues and newsworthy events that you see on television. And part of what we always say, and part of what you know, it's always the quality of life things. It's always the reasons that frustrate you and go into a playground, go into the store. It's those daily challenges that are the real work that these community meetings make us better at. So I can't thank you enough. And I saw Major Briscoe was getting closer and closer with her pink notebook there. So between the major and the captain, I know you guys are all over that. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Frances Muldrow. I'm from Sandtown, Winchester. I'm the nice person that writes all the letters to Heather Martin every time a liquor store or a club is trying to come in our neighborhood or Harlem Park. So I go to Santa Maria's this Sunday, and it's basically shot out. And I'm concerned because they're doing an expansion. When I asked the owners, I thought it was just going to be a restaurant, a sit-down restaurant that was selling alcohol, but now residents are telling me that it's supposed to be a sports bar. So I need to know, what are we going to do to try to keep that from being another hot spot? I mean, are they going to have security there? This is the 1300 block of Fremont Avenue, and I'm concerned.
Ms. Muldrow, I have to say, I'm sorry, it's Fremont, you said?
It's 1300
Okay.
Fremont. I think it's Santa
I got it.
Maria's.
So-
And they're expanding, and I just thought it was going to be a restaurant and serving some drink, a sit-down restaurant, something nice. And now I'm hearing sports bar, B-A-R.
Got it. A couple of things. I think calling it a sports bar in and of itself isn't the problem. There are plenty of good sports bars.
Yeah.
The problem is when you have bad owners and poor enforcement. And I've worked very, very hard over the time that I've been in office to strengthen the accountability in the liquor board. The reason why we had the changes that we have is because of the hard work that my administration has pushed for with the delegation, and I want to thank Delegate Keith Haynes. I thought I saw him come in. He's been a big supporter of our effort to bring more accountability to the liquor board. The challenge that we face right now with the liquor board is the current governor's views on how we police or how we regulate liquor stores is a lot different than where we had been. And trying to get a liquor board to hold restaurants / bars, all those stores that, what do you call them, packaged goods stores, accountable is becoming increasingly challenging under this new administration. So I can tell you that we'll have, Tony, I don't know if you can follow up and get this, Ms. Muldrow's contact information so we can follow up and work with you and your community association directly. But I can tell you that I have heard consistent complaints from communities with the changes in the composition of the liquor board about their willingness to hold liquor stores accountable for the way in which they operate. So we'll continue to put that pressure on them to do that.
They have not started selling alcohol. There's already shoes.
No, listen, I'm not.
I feel it's going to get worse once they start having people.
Whether it's a place that sells alcohol or not, if it is a place where, and if it is a place where the ownership has made it clear that they're not going to invest in security, that they're going to turn a blind eye, whether it's a corner store or a restaurant or a sports bar, that is the problem, and we need to hold them. We need to hold them accountable, and that's why I said that we'll make sure that we get your information, and we can work with you and your community association president to make the case with the liquor board to try to hold them accountable for doing the right thing in the community.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm Marvin Cheatham, president of Matthew Henson Neighborhood Association. With the members of Matthew Henson, at least raise their hands. I'm pretty certain we're the largest group that's here. Madam Mayor, we first want to thank you publicly. A little more than a month ago, you visited us. Our police commissioner was with us a few weeks before that. We lost one of our children in the neighborhood, and thanks to your leadership and the great assistance from Mr. Tony White, our school, Matthew Henson Elementary, now has always stop signs all around them. We want to publicly first thank you again, Madam Mayor, for that. I will give you, Madam Mayor and Police Commissioner, and our illustrious commander from our Western District a copy of this document. We will document again and publicly list the open-air daily drug locations in our community. Baker at McKean. You can walk right now, 4 blocks down the street, purchase any type of drug that you want. Baker at Monroe, including the parking lot at 1550 North Monroe. McKean at Pressman. Baker at Smallwood. McKean at Presbury. Presbury at Bentlow. 1700 Bentlow Porch. Westwood at Appleton. West North Avenue at Fulton. West North Avenue at McKean. Presbury at Fulton. Pulaski at West North Avenue. West North Avenue parking lot at Smallwood. 1500 block of Payson, and Fulton at Pressman. We will continue documenting these locations because these are not only open drug markets, but they are daily. They wake up before we do, and they're still selling drugs when we go to sleep at night. This is Monday through Sunday. We also want to mention that we have tractor trailers that are being illegally parked in our community, and they are being periodically used as camouflage to sell drugs behind them. So we are asking that we do as much as we can. Almost all of our neighbors have signed up for block watching now, and that after 9 months, the computers are finally working. We're willing to do almost anything we can to help, but we should not have, with 61 blocks in our neighborhood, 15 documented drug locations. So, Madam Mayor, we thank you. Police Commissioner, we thank you for all that you're doing. We just need more help. And please know that there were more businesses hit in Winchester than Sandtown. We love Sandtown, but you've neglected Winchester. We've had 14 businesses, 4 of which still are not open. So we thank you all for being here today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cheatham. And I want to thank you for your leadership in your community association and your willingness to continue to partner with us. I want the commissioner to talk to the specifics of the open-air drug markets, but I hope you understand by the action that you've seen since the last meeting that we attended that this is about a partnership and our commitment to follow through with the work that needs to be done. So I'm looking forward to more follow-up from this meeting as well. Commissioner?
Thank you, sir. And I do recall that meeting. I guess it was a couple months ago, and I'm glad that we were able to make good on some of the things we talked about. So the first thing we'll make good on, the easier of the two, the situations that you described are those tractor trailers. They're already gone, right? They need to go. Then the challenging with the open air drug markets, and believe me, we have weekly meetings with the state's attorney's office. And while we do talk about those newsworthy events that grab everyone's attention, we spend much more time speaking about the scenarios that you described with open-air drug markets, finding out better, more innovative ways to make the arrests that we need to make that will stick in court, will stick to a conviction, and get some of these folks off the street. Because not only are they engaged in dealing death to our young people, but they're either today's victim or tomorrow's perpetrator, or vice versa. And the mayor's talked about this on a number of occasions. We know who the people are in the city who are either going to harm someone or be harmed. And they're not different people all too often. They're vulnerable as well. And the criminal lifestyles that they're choosing to lead, and I'm not apologizing for it, make them vulnerable to crime as well. And I know you don't want to walk out and see it. I mean, I sensed that in you a long time ago. And it's frustrating for us as well. So as you described all those intersections, we'll have a follow-up. I will personally attend this follow-up meeting with the major and the captain at the Western, and maybe we'll just hop in a car and take a ride. And I apologize you have to see that often, and I promise you we'll do better.
And I can also, the other thing that I want to talk about is the fact that we're certainly focused on the enforcement aspect of it, but my administration is also very focused on the demand side and working to expand treatment and to reduce the number of individuals that we have that are living with addiction. I just met with the health commissioner today, who was talking about some additional resources that we've been able to get from the federal government, and the real spotlight that's been shown on us because of our aggressive work around the problem of heroin addiction, and the work that we're doing to reduce overdose deaths. So I just want you to know that on that side of it too, I know that I've been to your meeting. I know that the commissioner has been to your meeting. If you want if your community association wants information on that background, the work that we're doing there, because those markets exist not because people in Delaware are on drugs, it's because people in our communities. Now, we know that not every single person, we know that people come from outside of our communities to buy, but we also have to own up to the fact that we do have a lot of people who are substance abusers in our own community who are, creating that demand that unfortunately suppliers are willing to, to supply. So, like I said, I mean, you know how to get us. If you want that on that side as well, so you can help us get the information out about treatment and things like that, and the things that we're doing to reduce overdose death, I would certainly welcome that opportunity. Thank you.
And Mayor and Gus, can I add one thing? Just last week, the police department, we had our first 2 naloxone saves. So Dr. Nguyen with the health department, not only is she training the citizens of Baltimore to carry naloxone, which is the antidote to a heroin overdose, but she's also trained 600 and some odd police officers, and we had our first 2 naloxone administrations last week and saved 2 lives. So it's holistic, it's everything.
We can also train members of your community association to administer it as well. We have the broadest, I guess, prescription. Dr. Nguyen has worked to make sure that anybody in the city can get the prescription for naloxone, so they can be part of the solution as far as to end overdose deaths in the city. So we can talk about that as well. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Kiana Cook. As you can see, a Ravens fan. Left Purple Night so that I could come up here, and you had to pay for Purple Night, so I really felt the need to be here. Let me say I'm a member of the Bridgeview Green Lawn Neighborhood Association, and quite a few of our members are here also. As I listened to the mayor talk about a business whose owner has to be a part of the community, I look at what's come into our community that has completely changed the community, and it's a corner store. It's hard to believe that a corner store could change your entire community, but if you go to the Ravens Mart, which is in our community, it has completely changed the Bridgeview Green Lawn Neighborhood Association into an association where I'm constantly cleaning, constantly calling 911 because there's drug dealing at that spot, and the owner has no problem with the number of people that hang there. As an association, we went to the zoning meeting to try to stop the opening. We asked our city council person for a letter because we knew that that was not what we wanted there. Still, they were able to get that store. Somehow, they are able to be open like their 7-Eleven, 24 hours. In a community where there are seniors, nobody in our community is going to that store, but people who want to buy drugs roll up there on a regular basis. We have identified it every community association meeting. We have offered suggestions to the police on how they could go in and buy maybe a couple of those single cigarettes that they're selling young people, and maybe they could do a sting or something that could shut that store down. We have constant they don't even walk up some of ours. They're rolling up in their big cars to go and stand in that store. When I confronted one of my former students about him selling drugs, he said, and I said, you know, we're going to shut that store down. He didn't even hear the drug part. He said, Ms. Cook, please don't close the store, because they know they can sell drugs out of that store. And if everyone knows it, why is it still open? I applaud, we get our police officers to come up and they'll sit outside some days, but the drug traffic is awful. And when we talk about the prison to school pipeline, when I called Calverton and said, you have kids on the corner up here at the store, and I said, could you send your school police? They said, no, that call 911. I said, well, I don't want kids to go to jail. I don't want police to pick them up. Do you talk to each other? Can someone come around here and just get them to school? Can your principal come identify the children and, you know, tell them to come on back to school? We couldn't get that. So as a community, we're looking for people to enforce codes, like we call about the trash, that there's no top on the trash can. We're not getting those enforced. That store is filthy. It has trash from one end of our block to, we were named the Bridgeview Green Lawn because we had pride in our community. And it has become a battle to keep our community up. When I talk with my daughter, who I'm trying to get to buy a house in the city, she doesn't care how much money the city is going to give me, because she said, look at this, look at that, look at this. I know that even as a politician, if you put a sign up, you're supposed to have it down during election year. I still see signs up. Nobody's enforced that. Why is still the signs up from the last election to now? Somebody should have enforced it. That should have come down. It's not happening. So as a community, we're looking for code enforcement, and we're looking for police support. And I love Baltimore City Police, I really do. They've helped me a lot, so if you can help us with that, we would truly appreciate. And all of my wonderful politicians, it is an election year this year. And I just say to people sitting out here, please vote.
Time, I guess she's, all right. I'm going to go to, if it's okay, I'll go to the next question, because I think she's dealing with the, are you dealing with the specific corner store issue? Because I don't, no, I mean, what are y'all talking about?
Well, actually, I'm not. I'm asking her, but she's the young lady that called my office.
Oh, okay.
And I asked her name again. I said, Ms. Johnson, she called me about that, and we had a level of dialogue. And it was the day before, it was the day of a meeting. She called me an hour before, and I was double booked. I could not attend that meeting. But some of the things that she's sharing, I have not gotten that.
Okay. And that, so on the other thing on the corner store, Ms. Cook, I can commit to you that I will work with all of the entities that I control to use the enforcement tools that we have to try to get them to comply. I know that there are things that we can do, not just with the police department, but also with the health department. So you have my commitment that we will use all of those tools. And I'm sorry you had to leave Ravens night. I am. I know. Sorry.
You wanted to say something, Councilman? Councilman raised his hand.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's an issue near and dear to my heart. That issue and the issues raised by Ms. Inez Robb prompted me to file a piece of legislation that would put a 3-member commission in place that would regulate corner stores and small grocery stores, and especially the 24-hour requirement that they stay open 24 hours. Today, we just received a letter from Finance stating that that store in question is requesting a 24-hour permit to stay open 24 hours without a permit. And our office just contacted today, we're contacting every community organization in the area to give them notice. The way the process is in place now, the Department of Finance doesn't mail out to all the community organizations. It mails out to the city council office. And I think that's a flawed process. That's why I want a commission put in place that regulates not only the 24-hour aspects of a problem store, but the store itself, its licensing and revocation of the license, and holds that store accountable to the community, where the community with 10 signatures or more can bring that store before that commission to protest the license, and if findings prove factual that it is a nuisance, revoke the license of that store and rid the community of that nuisance establishment. And the last time that they appeared before zoning, because we have the zoning documents on that store, it was Agnes Welch who protested the establishment of that store, and I'm still in wonder, with all of that support, how that store was established in the first place. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, Casey Jenkins. And
Well, I'm sorry, what's your first name again?
Casey Jenkins.
Thank you.
And I had something totally that went to the other after what you said. It kind of leads toward, I was happy to hear the mayor. I'm
sorry to interrupt you. Can you give your community association?
Sure. I'm not in a community association. I'm a business owner here in the city, and this is the only meeting that I could have made it to.
So not in the Western District?
I'm in the Waverly District, so I made it over to this meeting. But I'm a business owner in the city. But I'm glad to hear that you said that having more people out, inhibits crime, and I can understand that. But one of the things that's going to get more people out and it's going to perpetuate growth in each community is being able to have good businesses and great business owners. Now, there are mechanisms in place in the city that can help that, but they're not being utilized properly. I think it was a great idea when you decided to do the
minor privilege fee.
The minor privilege is horrible. The minor privilege is horrible. Because minor privilege pushes businesses away. Because when anybody has to pay $1,500, when anybody has to pay $1,500 just to have an awning because it's encroaching on city property, that's problematic, Mayor. That's problematic.
So you didn't take a look at the changes that we made?
Now, what I was talking.
You didn't take a look at the changes that we've made?
I've seen some of the changes, but it's not enough. It's not enough. Let's talk about...
The only changes that have happened in the last 20 years that I've been here, but I'm glad you know.
Let's talk about some of the other things, like what Mr. Welch just said. I think that, the lady was right. The woman that just spoke was right when she spoke about there's no code enforcement. He's standing here saying that this store was operating without a permit, but this woman is stating that they're staying open. But businesses that are flourishing and businesses that should be doing what they're doing are the ones that are being strangled with things like minor privilege and not being able to and not being afforded some of the opportunities to grow in communities like this that we want to move to. So that's what's problematic, and that's what's going to deter crime. Something like, putting a commission in place, the tool's already in place. Close the damn business. It's that simple. Just like when we had those 2 shootings over in Waverly, 2 black men died in one store, and we turned around and BDC gave the store owner $60,000 to help because, we need to make him a better business owner. No, we had 2 black men die in the store. And Mayor, you know what I'm talking about because we had a conversation about this. This is what's problematic about the city. This is why crime is flourishing in the city, is because you ran the last time on Main Street businesses, but you've done very little for Main Street businesses in this city. That's the problem. And this administration is becoming an anathema to small business in this city. That's what's problematic. There's not a lot that I can pretty much say that people don't already know. We need to finance small business. And there are a number of mechanisms that you have in place, but they're just not being utilized properly. So, I do agree with, I'm trying to think of the loan that was put in place that could be used as bridge capital, But when you're talking about just coming out of a major downturn, you know, when we're talking about the problem that everyone had getting financing, that's problematic to me. So, I mean, there are a number of things that we could probably speak about that can deter crime, but one of them is having small businesses and giving back to small businesses and help financing small businesses. And I have to disagree with you on one thing. I think the governor is doing a great job in trying to deter some of the people that shouldn't have liquor licenses in the city.
So we're just gonna, it won't be the.
Thanks a lot, Mayor.
You're very welcome, Mr. Jenkins, and I'm sure you are no stranger to the fact that we're just gonna agree to disagree. I've heard nothing but complaints from communities about the liquor board, the current liquor board's enforcement. Moreover, I've heard directly from people who've dealt with them that the way that they will conduct business under the new administration is to focus on ensuring that the businesses well, I should say, we were told that we should stop blaming the city's problems on these liquor stores, that the problems are not the liquor stores, but are drugs. And when someone says that to you, it certainly gives me the impression that they're not looking to hold the liquor stores fully accountable, but they're part of the problem. So those are the red flags that we've heard that lead me to have concerns about the direction of the liquor board under this administration. With respect to small business and Main Street, we're not going to agree because when I said that I was running to support small businesses, we've strengthened Main Streets. We've created the Baltimore microloan program that gives small businesses loans when they couldn't get financing other places. While you don't believe that. So the reason why it was lowered is because we're working to improve it. The fact that I'll just back up and say this.
So
I tried to give you your time over there, but you started off by saying that you're not from this community. So what I will say is we'll go back to listening to questions from the Western District.
Okay, I'm going to Doc Cheatham. Yes, sir. All right. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
I was just saying that I tried to give him his time there. I tried to respond. I think it's important to go back to the members who actually live in this community.
So here's what I'm going to say, and I think, and I'll take the liberty to do this, Madam Mayor, and Doc Cheatham actually stole my thunder. We're going to respect this community, this district. This is not an opportunity to try to over-talk anyone to get your point across. If you have a 5-page presentation, I'm going to ask you to take 5 sheets of the survey. Is that fair enough? Residents of the Western District, is that fair? I'm not saying that your point, whoever you are, is invalid. I'm saying residents of the Western District's time is valuable. And we're going to respect that tonight. Fair enough?
Okay, I am a resident.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Yvette Muhammad, Yvette Muhammad,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I come out of 3 different communities, and one is Sandtown, Winchester. I own a house at Emerson and Carrollton, own a house at Landville and Bentlow. Landville and Bentlow has drug activity. I mean, if you call the police, they come and they blow the horn. What's blowing the horn gonna do? Just tell them to scatter, and then they go back to the same thing, and they don't even live in the neighborhood. But when I go over and to check on my house, there is drug activity. As soon as they see me get out of the car, they move, because I carry it like that. I don't let them do where I pay my mortgage. But I'm paying mortgages in the Western District in 3 different properties. And all 3, on my house on Fulton Avenue and Mosier, the drug activity is right there on that corner. No, right by the district, and nothing's changed. Go down to Emerson and Carrollton. You go down Emerson and Carrollton, drug activity. Nothing's changing, but I'm paying a lot of taxes in this city. So I want some things to change, because I am fed up with it. I pay enough taxes in this city on my properties that I don't think I'm getting adequate services. I call the police, and what they do, they go by and they do a drive-by. I don't need a drive-by from the police officer. I need them to get out there. If you go out there and community police these neighborhoods, and the police used to do that, because my grandfather was the first officer friendly, and he was out in Cherry Hill. And if you go out there and you tell somebody about Officer Murdoch, they say, oh, we know him. So my grandfather was a community police person. He got out in the neighborhood and got to know the neighborhood and the people and the parents. If you don't get to know the neighborhood, nobody's gonna respect your police officer, because they don't care unless they come in and somebody's killed or shot, or there's a big drug activity and they can see it. But when you're reporting this, I'm telling you, if they go out and walk the beat like they should, get to know the community, get to know the people in the community, because we have feelings. We have feelings, and we're people. And I'm not gonna live in my house scared to come out the front door. There are people scared to come out their front door in these neighborhoods. And so I'm sick of it, and I'm saying we need community policing. We heard about community policing, saying we're gonna put our officers back out on the beat. It started for a minute, and then it stopped again. It stopped again. It was doing some effective policing. But if you don't do that, you're gonna have a city that nobody wants to live in. I would not buy another house in this city at all. It's horrible. Even to bring it up to code condition. I retired from Baltimore City Fire Department as a fire inspector, and I'm appalled at what I see in this city. And I actually fought fires as one of the first female firefighters. I was the first female fire inspector, and I did a great job for my city. But I would not buy another property in this city, because nobody wants to do anything. They blight. I'm in the corner of my house, in my neighborhood, nothing but trash. Nobody says anything. You call 311, they'll close a ticket up on you in a minute, without even doing anything. And I say, why you close the ticket up? I get a thing from your office, and it says, tell me what great job we did. No, you didn't do a great job. You closed the ticket up and then sent it to me after you closed it up, and nobody did anything. So I'm coming as a concerned person in the Western District who own property in the district, and there's nothing happening. And the police officers need to get out the car, come in the neighborhood, and get to know the people in the neighborhood. Because guess what? If we're afraid in the neighborhood, they afraid too. But I'm let you be afraid with me in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Muhammad.
I'll do it in this. I'll just say before I turn it over to Commissioner, Ms. Muhammad, thank you very much for being here and for your service. It's clear, like me, you have a legacy of public service and you care a lot about the city. And with respect to the issue around closed tickets, that's something that I take very seriously and that we're working on. We are, the reason why we send out those things to ask the question, not how great a job we did. We want to know, we're looking for additional eyes to make sure that people aren't closing out stuff when it says closed. So that's why we're sending it out, not for you to pat us on the back, but you know, we have inspectors, we have other things, but I'm looking for as many eyes as possible to make sure that the people that are out in the field that are so that the people that are closing the tickets out inappropriately, we can hold them accountable. With respect to with the open-air drug markets, I want the commissioner to address that, but I want you to know that you will be hearing. I know that you pay attention to the things that we send out and the news that comes out. So I want you to just stay tuned, because we do have some improvements that are coming to that the service request process, so we can do a better job of making sure that closed really means closed, because it's something that has been a challenge in that system since it was created. And we're really working hard to make sure that we get it right. I'll have the commissioner talk about the open-air drug markets, and what you should also understand is we are focused on community policing, and that's why I asked for the cops office to come in and help work with us to make sure that we get it right. We are working very hard to try to get officers out on the street. We attempted to do that through the new police contract, and we found out that the implementation. So you can have a plan on paper, but then it's when you go to implement, you have to deal with the real world. In the real world, it didn't give us the opportunity to get the officers out on the street as much as we would like, and we're making changes to that as well, because the commissioner and I both agree that the only way that we can have true community policing is when not just the community is present, but when the officers are present in a way that, just like you talked about, we used to have with Officer Friendly, to make sure that we have officers who are trained and prepared to be the community partners that we need. So I'm going to have the commissioner talk about that work as well as the open-air drug markets, and thank you for your investments in the city. And I hope you will see that the work that we do, the continuing work that we do addresses those needs, because I want more people like you to be in the city, not just investing, but to feel good about those investments.
So thanks, Mayor. And Ms. Muhammad, I too want to thank you for your many years of service to the fire department. Chief Ford will probably still try to recruit you and bring you out of retirement tonight. No? He probably asked you on the way in. So thank you. And your grandfather's service was no doubt legendary. So, a long line of service in your family, and that leads you to make some astute observations about community policing. And, it sounds like you were a fly on the wall in our command staff meeting this morning, because we were talking with just as much spirit as you articulated here this morning. But we've made a mistake, a leadership mistake in American policing. We assume that police officers know how to conduct foot patrol. Well, foot patrol is actually a real thing. And we search big city and big county police departments across America, and nobody teaches foot patrol as a curriculum in their academy. Nobody. The closest agency in America is the Philadelphia Police Department, and Commissioner Ramsey and Temple University got together and did a study a few years ago on the benefits of foot patrol, and they're all the things that you mentioned. So what we are introducing a real academic curriculum to our police academy starting January, and it's called Community Foot Patrol. It's synonymous with community policing. But we're taking that theoretical that the mayor just talked about, and we're making the theoretical practical. So police departments in America, Baltimore is not unique, teach young recruits how to interact with victims, witnesses, suspects, and reporting people. And if you fit neatly into one of those little categories, we're pretty good at interacting with you. But if you're outside of those four neat little categories that we teach people about, we don't do as well. And this new generation, and I called them millennials the other day, but somebody said there's even a newer term for them. I don't know what they're called, but they're different. but they're different, and they're smarter than us. They're more IT savvy than us, and they will eventually be the greatest generation of police officers, but they're not there yet. And they're actually, and this, I find it hard to convince my own family members of this, police officers are actually introverted people, by and large. We're extroverted when we're dealing with those four neat little categories: victims, witnesses, suspects, reporting people. But when we're otherwise walking down the sidewalk, or passing you in a store, or walking by your front doorstep, we're introverts. We're introverts by nature. So our curriculum will create sterile mock scenarios at first in a classroom setting, and then we're going to take our recruit officers into the community, and we are going to partner them with community leaders like Ms. Robb, and we're going to see how they interact with people. It'll probably end up being a sitcom. I don't know. But we have to teach these 20-somethings, and I know Chief Ford probably has same challenges with young firefighters. We have to teach our young police officers how to interact with people. We make a leadership mistake thinking they know how to do it, and they just don't. And as a father whose 4 teenagers routinely text me in my own house, and I admit I've returned a text or two, although I shouldn't, it's a challenge that we're facing with young police officers. They're really, really smart, but we have to make them community police officers. We just can't talk about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we end sometime tonight, Madam Mayor, maybe we can give Chief Ford an opportunity to give his plug for for the fire department. Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Linda Scott, and my daughter actually attends this school in this district. Tonight I'm here because I'm crying out for help. My daughter was attacked in this very school on Wednesday, where the school was invaded after school hours it was about 3:25. She was in volleyball practice. And these students that attacked her were some of her classmates, along being led by the parents who rallied into the gymnasium, and the parent had given the instruction what was to take place. At that time, it was only 2 coaches who were in there with probably about 25 students that were on the practice court. But once they invaded the gym, it was about 40 students that came in with the parents, and a great level of frustration with crowbars, brass knuckles, shoved the coach out of the way and began to surround my daughter and beat her viciously. This is on the cameras of this school. This is on the video cameras that have been sent to my cell phone. Since Wednesday, I've been crying out for help. Police did respond because there was no school police on the premises, because at the time the school was out at 2:35, and this took place about 3:20. I was called from my job. I do own a business in the Park Heights community, so I shut my business down, leaving my clients to come and see about my daughter, because when they first came down to trouble her from the beginning, no coach was present. By the time I arrived, the students were gone, and I saw the students outside. Me and those students had a conversation. They seemed to be very respectable young kids. I gave them my phone number to make sure we can keep this thing resolved. I had not made it back to Cold Spring and Park Heights, when I was getting a call from a screaming young girl crying that they was beating my daughter viciously in the presence of 2 coaches who could not do anything because of the intensity of the crowd that came in with these parents who knocked that coach out the way to give instruction. That happened Wednesday about 3:20. Paramedics and Baltimore City Police were called. At the time, one of the coaches gave the dispatcher the getaway car's tag number and information. The police supposedly went to apprehend that. From that time, I've been trying to obtain a police report Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and even till Monday. I went and stood in Western District on today after sitting downtown at juvenile detention trying to find names of where I could press charges, what to do, how to go, who can help me, and I kept getting turned away. Today I stood in Western District for over an hour. The young lady at the desk looked me in my face and said, "Miss, I just contacted the dispatcher and they have no records that an officer ever showed up at the school." I said, "Ma'am, what am I to do? Where do I go?" I'm crying out for help because I'm not trying to respond the way the parents did. I come as a citizen and even as a woman of God to bring peace, but we need to address this the right way. That woman turned me away and said there was nothing she could do. At that time, I reached out to a neighbor, and she told me to call Internal Affairs. I did that, and probably within like 20 minutes, that person gave me a complaint number. So then from there, I had to go downtown to start this process. I don't know what to do. 2014, I buried my son to being killed on these streets. I'm asking for help because I don't want to bury my daughter. Thursday, the principal called and asked me to show up in this school to meet with the other parents. My daughter and her father and myself showed up at that meeting with a bunch of angry parents that looked like they were gang members, parents that were ready to leap across the table to someone who still addressed you as ma'am after you beat my daughter viciously. And I still address you with respect. An angry parent who sat and said to my daughter, she looked sneaky and she looked like she had a lot of SHIT with her, when the school police then escorted this woman from the room telling her to have a good day. And these children, students of this school, got suspended for 3 days, scheduled to be back in school on tomorrow after they have the video. They have the school cameras. They have this thing where they video everything that they're doing now. All this evidence, and they got 3 days. I'm hurting. How can I reach for help? Who can help me? Who do I turn to when all of the evidence is there and you're telling me all you can do is give them 3 days because it's their first offense? Where do I go for help? Do my daughter wind up like the Douglas kid? Do my daughter wind up like her brother in 2014? I lift my hands. I'm not trying to retaliate, but I need help. I need help.
So I can make sure, Ms. Scott, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
If you have a seat, we'll make sure that someone talks to you. I will ensure that I will contact the school system and school police. The commissioner will as well, to make sure that we get this resolved. I don't want your daughter to end up,
Me neither.
you know, like the videos that we've seen. If you have the videos,
I have them right here with me.
we can make sure that we get that information to school police and find out, you know, what's happening and why it has taken so long to have some resolution. I want to commend you for the way in which you're going about this, because as a mother myself, you know, I'd probably be in jail if somebody attacked my child. I'm just being honest. So the fact that you're going about this in this way, I have nothing but respect for that. And I commit to you that we'll help you get this resolved.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name's Kwame Rose. I live in the Western District. So my question is, I've been to all 5 of the public safety forums, and if you can look around the room, none of the people who, I guess you would say, sparked, as you all quote unquote put it, the riots, have ever been present, nor have they ever been engaged since the uprisings took place. My question is directed to you in particular, Madam Mayor. Your last 14 months of your administration, how will you engage those who are affected by police brutality and the practices of your interim commissioner, Kevin Davis, right? Because when Batts was here, we were allowed to protest. It was peaceful. He even came out and engaged in the midst of the protesters and told us that we had support and our First Amendment rights would be respected. But now when it comes, it seems like Commissioner Davis has gave the call for protesters to be attacked. You all went inside of Wesley West's church and arrested him during Bible study. And I just want to know, when will there be any engagement for the community as to picking a member from the community, someone like Melvin Russell, who should have been the police commissioner a long time ago?
So one of the things I can talk to the community about is our engagement with the Department of Justice. Before the tragic death of Freddie Gray, I engaged with the Department of Justice and asked for their help to do a collaborative review of our policing strategies, our community policing efforts, because I wanted to find better ways to engage the public and really reform the department. I was not hiding from the challenges that we had with the department. And I know that you can do the same things that you've been doing and expect different results, but I also know that that's the definition of insanity. So instead, I engaged with experts to help guide the process of reforming the police department, using best practices to strengthen the relationship between the community and the police. And
That's not answering the question at all. I'm wondering what
I'm sorry, sir,
but
I did not interrupt you at all.
I know, but
So you're going to allow me to finish answering the question,
right?
And you're going to allow me
But you
to
haven't answered
answer
or
it.
started to answer.
Did I finish talking? So the first thing we did was to engage with the cops office on community policing. When I knew that that wasn't enough, that all of the people that we needed to reach weren't being reached, and the work that needed to be done to strengthen the bond between the community and the police wasn't getting there, I've done what no other mayor in the country has done, which is to ask for a patterns and practice investigation by the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. Why? Because I knew that there were more people that needed to be a part of reforming the police department. I knew that we needed to do more to outreach, to strengthen to build trust from the broken relationships that have been existed in our community for decades between the community and the police. And I have to say that I've been pleased with the outreach that has happened and their commitment to work with us to get it right. So I know that the Department of Justice is here. They are doing a significant amount of engagement, and my hope is that by using best practices and ways that they have engaged in the community, and that's the broader community, not just people who were involved in the protests, but those people, the people who aren't engaged in the protests, people that are in the CRCs, community leaders, the whole gamut. Because we want the department to work for all of Baltimore. So that work is definitely being done by using best practices as evidence, using evidence-based practices from around the country, and the work that the Department of Justice has done in many communities like Baltimore that have had these issues. I've also lobbied for stronger laws in the state government. I was in January, and the delegate was a witness to my efforts to reform the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights. Why? Because I heard very loud and clear at the Public Safety Forum that the community wanted the playing field to be level, that there were rules that officers benefited from that created the friction between the community and the police. We wanted to give the commissioner and chiefs around the state more tools to deal with officers, not just accused of wrongdoing, but I was starting off with officers who have been found guilty of crime, and trying to say that even, not the officers that are accused or something, but even after they've been found guilty, they still, the playing field was still uneven, and I begged the legislature to work with me, begged the Fraternal Order of the Police to work with me to change those laws so we could start to rebuild the broken relationship between the community and the police. Now, there are positive signs now after the death of Freddie Gray that there are many in the legislature that want to be a part of that effort now. I'd hoped that it wouldn't, take something like this incident to get them to move forward with them, but that's where we are. With respect to the way that we're dealing with protests, I can have the commissioner can speak to that, but we are very clear, and the community was very clear after the protests, the riots, the unrest in the spring, that it was very clear across the board that the community expects us to treat protests like protests and riots like riots, and that the community, I've heard from children as young as 8 years old to, to great-grandparents that they want us to make sure that we do everything we can
So
to make sure that
I don't
no
mean to cut you off, but I just want to make the question clear,
properties are
because I don't think the question's being answered.
destroyed.
So my question is, right, we sit at these communities, we sit at these boards, and everybody
I didn't cut your mic off. I'm going to ask you to let the mayor finish, though.
But my question's not being answered, it's being danced around. So we talk
No,
about the drugs in
no.
the community, but when we came together peacefully, you allowed for everybody else to call the young people inside.
I'm sorry,
your
come on.
city, call us thugs and criminals. So then when we talk about them supporting minority business owners, you shot down the young man's question about supporting the businesses that could employ these thugs and criminals so that they don't have to resort to selling drugs. So what do we do, right? Instead of giving the tax breaks to the inner harbor and pouring that millions and billions of dollars in development, how do you develop young black people inside of your city in which you grew up?
So that's a whole nother set of questions that you're
That's
asking.
another set of questions.
And I appreciate your question, but I was trying to get to the issue of how we're going to rebuild the relationship between the community and the police. And I apologize if I misunderstood your question, but if you'd like me to address that, those issues, we can do that offline.
Hey, Gus, can I add one thing just for the entire community to know? And the Baltimore Sun covered this in a recent article. The dates of September 2nd and September the 10th, we partnered with the Department of Justice. They sent us 3 community response specialists from the Department of Justice. They were part of our roll calls. They heard everything we had to say regarding how we're going to treat protests. And they were embedded into our operations. So we embedded Department of Justice officials in those days for their entirety. We invited specialists from other large jurisdictions to tag along and offer their critiques of our operation. And we are constantly looking for ways to ensure that anyone who wants to protest peacefully in Baltimore is afforded the environment to protest peacefully. And that's my commitment. I've never wavered from that. I've been involved in protests in now 3 different jurisdictions in our state, and I have a history for treating protests the way that the Constitution requires protests to be treated. I have the utmost respect for protesters and their role in our criminal justice system in our country.
So before we go to our next, I know I saw Chief Ford.
And Gus, just the last thing, and I know there's a lot of conversation about where Reverend West was arrested, and he was not arrested at a church.
He was arrested in his church. There's the video.
And Kwame.
On the video, it says, "Call ABC, I'm in my church."
Yeah,
You gave that order, and it's already admitted, so don't lie to the public and try to dance around it for your constituents.
okay. I just wanted to share that with the folks here at the meeting. Thanks, guys.
So, before we come to you, sir, I just wanted to make sure, I wanted to give Chief Ford an opportunity, not right now, but I wanted to know if he's still in the room. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even see you, sorry. We're going to give you an opportunity to give you a plug, sir. I just want to get the folks that are remaining. Yes, sir, your name and your...
Yeah, my name is Mr. Butch Pender, right? I'm from
I'm sorry, Mr. If you could step up, yeah.
Yes, my name is Mr. Butch Pender.
Thank you.
I live in West Baltimore almost 60 years. And my concern, or I like to address to you, Madam Mayor, is opportunity. I was lost, drugs, alcohol, prisons, et cetera, et cetera. But when I made my mind up to make a change, I had opportunity. And I see a lot of young youth out there on a daily basis who really, really want to change, want to be productive, want to be good. And they come to me individually and ask me for help and direction. And I guess my question to you is where are the programs? For example, they had a job fair when they got all this money from the riots, as this young man right here was speaking about. And I said to myself, it was at Shake and Bake. It was there a couple hours, and nobody in the neighborhood really knew. So now I might stand to be corrected, but in West Baltimore alone, this particular job fair only lasted maybe a few hours, and we got all these millions and millions of dollars, and I'm watching the news every day, right? And then I'm walking downtown as, you know, just taking care of some business, and I see all these schools, rec centers, libraries, all these I guess educational and fun centers for the youth and for people who really want to do right being closed down. So then I'm thinking to myself, what does our youth want to do? Where are they to turn? Who will they turn to? And how can they be better? But then I seen City Hall. They say we don't have any money, but I'm saying City Hall getting a facelift. And then I see the court system talking about pigeons and we can't work in these kind of conditions. We need all this money and you know what I mean? And I'm like, wow, there's something that's not right with this picture. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And this has been an ongoing concern, and I ain't really good at speaking, but I felt tonight, this is my first public, gathering or whatever you want to call it, right? I'm a little nervous, but I'm gonna speak my mind best I can, as clear as I can. And, I don't really see your administration really doing something for the community, and that's my concern. I mean, there are no opportunities. Where's all this money going at? I mean, where's all the money going at for, where's the money going at from the riots? I'm just kind of wondering. Well, I walked by probably last winter, Highland Park Recreation Center. I went to Highland Park Elementary, Highland Park Junior High, Highland Park Rec, 10 years old. Somebody said that rec center was closed down. I didn't believe it. I walked around the corner, and it made me jump. You understand what I'm saying? I was like, oh my God. It had grass grew all around outside. You know what I'm saying? What are the youth going to do? I was on Park Heights. I'm just getting to my point. I'm on Park Heights.
Thank you.
And I seen a lot of kids. This summer passed, and I stopped them. I said, y'all having a good time? What type of programs, what type of opportunities? What are you doing? Have you been to any parks, Community Action Agency, Urban League, Camp Fathers Out, Pilot House, all these programs that I came up on that I constantly see the administration from downtown closing down. Then I hear y'all saying, oh, we got 600 police being trained. But I haven't heard yet one person on this whatever you want to call it, speak about no programs for the youth, for these people who really want to do right. And I'm really kind of like really wondering, what is this all about? Is this really, and I watch, like I said, I come from I went astray. My mother and father, they're deceased. And I would get both my hands right now to say, you know what, Mom, you know what, Dad, you was right. But I'll reflecting back downtown, Lexington Market, 30-something years. Right now today, I see the same individuals, right, who lying, cheating, stealing, using drugs. And, I mean, how could they not be noticed? How could they not be known that they're breaking law? What is really being done? The lady said that as soon as they come, let me speak for myself. When they say a murder has taken place in Baltimore City, here come the police one day after the fact. I mean, what good is that going to do? They're not standing there, and I'm not really trying to blame it because it's a real big problem. But my point is, I feel as though all these programs that's being taken away from our community, all these schools, and nothing is being replaced. I mean, what is your plan? What is your administration plan, what is going to be replaced? The schools, what are you going to do? I mean, I see so many youth walking around, and it really, really hurt me. It really, really hurts me when somebody come to me, and I know they really, really want to do the right thing, but I can't direct them.
Mr. Pender, I'm going to, not to cut you off, I'm just, you pretty much cleared much, all that you want to talk about in terms of making the points. Programs, youth, I just want to make sure, because it's now 8:52. Thank you. Okay, all right.
So first, thank you very much for being here, and thank you for your question. You started off by talking about the fact that that you've been talking to people and the opportunities that you've seen, whether it's job fairs, other things that people didn't know about them. They just your words were they really didn't know about them. What I'm going to ask you to do while I'm responding is to think about ways that we could get more the information that needs to get out to the people that you feel that it's not reaching. If there are things that you think that we can do as far as communicating that we're not doing, I would love to get that feedback from you so we can close that communication gap and make sure that the job fairs and the opportunities that are out there are actually connecting with the people that need them the most. With respect to the buildings, whether they be schools or recreation centers, Baltimore has the oldest schools in the state, dilapidated schools. I don't have to tell you. Everybody knows it. That's why I was part of an effort to bring over $1 billion in school construction to build new schools, over $1 billion in resources to build new schools in the city and to fully renovate others. So we are well on our way in phase 1 of rebuilding our schools, so they won't be run down and they won't be poor reflections of the future of the children that we work to educate in those schools. With respect to recreation centers, I've been working very, very hard throughout my term as mayor to improve not just the quality of the programs in the center, but the recreation centers themselves, because we had an antiquated system of recreation centers that had fallen in disrepair, and for far too long, the answer was just keep them open. And nobody was having the tough conversations with what does that mean when you send a child to a recreation center, you send a girl to the bathroom and there are no doors on the stalls, the ceiling tiles are coming down, you can't, the equipment is poor. And I believed, and I still believe that if it's a center that I would not feel comfortable sending my child into, that I don't want you to send yours. And we worked to put together a plan to build the first new recreation centers in the city in more than 10 years, and a capital plan to invest over $140 million into recreation so we could continue to build and rebuild the recreation to not a second-class recreation system, but things that residents would find assets, where there's place for seniors, there's place for young people, there's places for sports. The challenge that I have when it comes to my efforts to rebuild recreation is that right now it's stuck in the city council, a piece of legislation that would put between $40 and $60 million on the table to help that effort. And I can't get the council to do anything with it. So we're moving, but the pace of the rebuilding of our recreation is slow. This is something that could happen in less than 6 years, and it might take more than 26 because the city council refuses to hear the bill that would allow us to invest, to put this infusion of money in there so we can get more recreation centers built. We're going to, as I said, we've built the first one in Morrill Park. We'll have 2 groundbreakings this year, before the end of this year, and in Cherry Hill and in Cahill, and more on the way. So anything you can do to help me get the city council to move and to have a hearing so we can have a vote one way or another, voted up or down, but we shouldn't allow for it not to be voted on. If people are saying that we want better recreation centers, we want better services and better facilities, then a plan should be put forward to get us there. And if there's no alternative, the least we can do is vote on the plan that I have out there. That was informed by members of the community who said that they wanted better recreation centers. And I'm surprised that you said that you were in Park Heights and the kids didn't have any programs, because one of the major investments that we made in Park Heights was with the renovation of C.C. Jackson and the ball fields, and we had free camps throughout the summer at 39 different recreation centers. We also had free program at Upton Boxing. We had free BNBL. We had free Be More Night Hoops. We had low-cost aqua camps at the pools, as well as scholarships for people who couldn't attend, that couldn't pay for that low-cost program. So back to your original point, which was that people really didn't know about it, I would encourage you to connect with one of the members of my team before you leave. If you have ways, if you have suggestions for how we can better connect with the people that we serve, because a lot of the programs that you say that you're looking for that we're doing, but if you're not getting that information, I know that means that other people aren't getting that information as well, and we need to do a better job communicating the services that are out there.
Thank you, Mr. Pender. I just want to make sure we do get your information, because if people are coming up to you asking for assistance, then that right there targets you as a community leader, someone that people see as a leader. There have been gentlemen there was a Mr. Featherstone in the Eastern District, I hope he doesn't mind me calling his name, who I began personally working with, and he's been helping folks get jobs. He himself, ex-offender, things of that nature, but he's trying to make a difference in his community, right here in the city. So we would like to get your information. There's another gentleman who just started working with Sinai, coming to the Public Safety Forum, trying to make connections. Ma'am, before you go, if it's okay, I'd like to give Chief Ford an opportunity. Chief Ford, you have 5 seconds to give a plug for the police.
I think she'll give me a chance. She has a Morehouse shirt on, and I'm an Atlanta boy. First of all, let me get the people who are from the fire department. Can you stand up and stick your hands up? Yeah. Thank you all. Okay. You can sit down now. Eugene, can you pick that sign up? Thank you, sir. That is a shameless plug. I want you to know that. Thanks, Eugene. Mayor, in December of 2013, when you and I sat in your conference room and you interviewed me, and the interview actually was more like a conversation, because one of the things that she pointed out to me was, she said, I really have to work on diversifying my fire department. I really have to work on hiring from inside the city of Baltimore. And she said that's part of my strategic plan, increasing our city by 10,000 families, and one of the best ways you can do that is make sure people don't leave and they have opportunity here. And I told her right then, I said, I went back to was it a 7-Up commercial, Dr. Pepper commercial? I said, you got the right one, baby, because I can do that. And that is my goal. And her heart, her heart has been in this, and I'm going to tell you, she supported me every step of the way. Right now, what we're working on, we have EMT firefighter programs in two schools in the Baltimore City right now. That means that when these young people graduate from high school, they should graduate with the National EMT certification and a National Firefighter 1 certification. If they follow the plan that we have, we actually embed the school with our own instructors, the instructors that teach our firefighters, to make sure they get trained properly. And when they finish that program, they have an opportunity not just to challenge to get hired here, which we hope they will do, which is actually our goal, but they can do it all over the country. So the reason why you see these fantastic people from my recruitment committee, because these are the people that you saw just stand up and Eugene holding the sign, I have some people in the back, is because they actually have been taking it to the street. They actually have been standing out on corners, holding signs, handing out pamphlets, telling people how to get online, how to apply. We are doing everything we know how to do. In fact, I've got a young lady sitting right here, one of the community leaders, who sat on my interviewing board. I actually use citizens to hire our firefighters. They do the interviewing, they said, that's who you should hire, and that's who I hire. And I think you can attest to me being factual about that. So we are doing everything we know how to do, including, I need to add this point, if I forget anything before I step off, and I'll make it short, Gus, I know you're sitting over there like Sandman getting ready to pull me off stage. But we knew that one of the issues that we had, I went to a public safety forum with the mayor, and I was talking about this program, and one of our folks, I think he was a barber, said, Chief, I know you and the mayor, your hearts are in the right place, but one of the problems we have is we got a lot of kids that have felonies. What can you do about it? Well, at that time, I had to be honest with him. I said, I don't think you can get a job with us that way. Well, my committee and myself and several members of my staff started investigating it. And we went through a process of contacting the state and also contacting a national organization. And we found out that we actually can hire people with felonies. But it depends on the type of felony. It's a case-by-case basis. So we want everybody to apply. Everybody that's interested in this job, we want them all to apply. The fire department is a trans-generational changer. My kids are better off, and my kids' kids will be better off because I do what I do. So we're trying to do everything we can do. So right now we have the positions open, we have the programs in the schools, and we hope that you spread the news, spread the good gospel of the Baltimore City Fire Department.
Thank you, Chief. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Taylor White, and I'm a resident. I live across the street. And my issue is illegal parking, 311, and police response. And I'll give you examples of it. Sure. This is only one block, and this is the school. The residents have problems with parking, but if residents park in the alley to take groceries out, they're ticketed. You leave in the morning to go to work, the teachers are rushing you out of your parking space. You come back in the afternoon, there's no parking spaces, but there are cars that are being left on these blocks in this area for months and years at a time. And if I call 311, the response is, it's a residential neighborhood. Someone could be visiting. Who's responsible for checking if these people are residents? Because there's a car on the corner now that's been parked there for 6 months. If the person who does the ticketing or marking the tires, if the car has been moved a half an inch, there's no response. So what do we do as residents on this block, where cars are strewn through this whole neighborhood illegally? I took Nick in the alley behind my house. The whole block of Baker Street, cars there. Some have no tags on them. Who's gonna do anything? And the next thing is, I called the police about a crashed vehicle behind my house. It took 24 hours for police to respond. Who's responsible? Who's accountable?
So, Ms. White, I'll make sure that we assign someone to follow up with you. If you make yourself available this week, we'll have someone walk with you that can ticket the vehicles that you're talking about this week.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Don't leave before we get your information.
Right,
Okay.
and I just want to make sure we get, yeah. You will be the last? Yeah. Well.
No, the gentleman.
Someone just.
The gentleman is the last one.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Harris, and I'm a member of Holland's Roundhouse Neighborhood Association, as well as the Southwest Partnership. And I really want to thank you for mentioning the community's role in having a presence to deter crime. And that's exactly kind of what we did this summer when I found out how many youth needed jobs this summer. So I, as a resident, got a group of community residents who all volunteered this summer to put a program together to take 50 youth and employ them for the summer. But during that experience, we had 2 incidences. One where a mother was dropping her son off to our location, and she got pulled over by the police, and he just got out to go inside because they were there, and the police officer was reaching for his sidearm and yelled at him, stop, don't move, and he didn't know. He's a 15-year-old kid, he was just going in. But luckily, his mother screamed at him, and he came and got back in the car. That was kind of unnecessary. We had another incident where we had 2 young men who were going to get a lawnmower to cut grass on a vacant lot that we were cleaning and maintaining, and the police officers handcuffed and sat these young men there and waited until we found out that they were being detained, and we had to come get them and say, hey, they're part of this program, they're not stealing the lawnmower. And so I bring that up because community-based policing has been mentioned several times and at several other meetings that I've been to, and I would leave here believing that community-based policing was limited to foot patrols, and there would be no involvement of a community review board when incidents occur that shouldn't occur with officers, as well as community being involved in the training of the officers for the communities that they will be sent to. So I guess I'd like to hear you speak a little bit more about that total community-based policing.
Absolutely, and I hope you heard the commissioner talk specifically about the community being involved in training, because that's real. Our work to involve the community in every facet of the work that we're doing to, again, just like we're here tonight, to find ways that we can work better together. The community is a part of the process when it comes to training. I want to make sure that you are put in touch with our Director for Civil Rights and Wage Enforcement about the first 2 issues that you brought up, because I've hired someone who is helping to revamp the Community Relations Commission and the Civilian Review Board. She comes with a spirit of service and wants to work with communities to, in her capacity, to independently hold the police department accountable for the work that we're doing in the community and making sure that people's civil rights are protected. And I want to make sure that you have a direct connection to her so we can make sure that we follow up on those things, because I take that very seriously. And to the second part of your question, that the community is currently involved and and the commissioner can speak to, again, if you missed what he was talking about the community being involved in the training, will continue to be involved in training the officers that are out on the street. So while you said that, we've been talking about foot patrols, we've been talking about that as a direct response to concerns about seeing officers on the street, not that that's the only thing that we're doing.
Thanks, Mayor. And some of the best relationships I have in my life are with people that I've interacted with for a quarter of a century on community review boards. I know their value. I support expanding their role in local law enforcement. I get it. I really do. So when we talk about community foot patrol, it's a practical way of introducing an often misunderstood theory of community policing. So we have almost 3,000 police officers in Baltimore, and if you asked each one independently what community policing means, you'd probably get 3,000 answers, and not all of them would be on the mark. So we want to introduce it in a practical way to our young police officers, but it just doesn't apply to police officers when they're engaged in a foot patrol. It's a way to introduce it to them so they can get comfortable with it, know that it's something that's tangible. Community policing isn't a theory or a philosophy, it's something that we should do, live and breathe. So when we talk about that curriculum that we're introducing, we think that's a practical way to introduce community policing, and then it just stays with you. How do you interact with humans, really? And it's teaching emotional intelligence and humanism. And we have to do a better with that. And then another conversation, we have to do a better with identifying humanism and a capacity for emotional intelligence in the people that we hire.
And built into that curriculum is the more effective community review board, as well as how in the training is the community.
And that's why I said I wanted to connect you with Ms. Brown from the Civil Rights and Wage Enforcement Director, because I want her to talk to you specifically, since I know that this is something that you're passionate about, so you can help us spread the word about the work that we're doing to strengthen the Civilian Review Board and the Community Relations Commission that also does that work to investigate, to do civil rights investigations locally. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Again, I want to thank everyone. I know that we couldn't get to everyone's questions. That's why Gus started off by holding up the survey. We take those very seriously. You will get follow-up. If you didn't get a chance to ask your question, please put your question on the form so we can follow up with you. I want to thank everyone here at Carver for their generosity in letting us overstay our agreed upon time for the Public Safety Forum. And I want to thank each and every one of you for giving us your time this evening and being willing to work and do the tough work. It's I think, very easy to talk. It's hard to do the work of building relationships between the community and the police. It's hard to do the work of making sure that we're doing what we need to do across the board. To ensure that we're doing right by you, and that all of this it takes effort and it takes presence. And by you being here today, that you are speaking loud and clear that you are present for the fight to strengthen our communities one neighborhood at a time. So I'm from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for being here.